The lead director clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. "All right, everyone, listen up," he called out, gathering the cast and crew. He laid out the filming plan. Starting today, they would be doing a 3-day pre-filming session, just at dawn. Those early shoots would be edited into 3 pilot episodes, and based on viewer feedback, they'd decide on the regular broadcasting schedule. He continued, explaining that daytime would be reserved for general filming. At night, the crew would wrap up, switching to observation cameras to capture real-time footage. Sang-guk's parents would be staying at a nearby hotel during all this. At that, Sang-guk's mother looked visibly concerned. Noticing her worry, the director offered a warm smile. "Don't worry, we'll take the utmost care of Sang-guk," he reassured her. "Of course," the members of Boredom just chimed in enthusiastically. "Leave it to us, mother." And with that mutual resolve, everyone was fired up to give it their all. The assistant director stepped forward, giving further instructions. The first scene starts with narration. "Don't worry, we'll record the official narration later with a pro voice actor." And action. In a modest semi-basement, 5 young men lived together, collectively known as Just. United by the dream of becoming top idols, their ordinary daily lives took a sudden detour. Because, out of nowhere, a baby arrived. All attention turned to the tiny new star, Sang-guk. With twinkling eyes and cheeks rounder than mochi, Sang-guk looked absolutely adorable. The members were spellbound by his cuteness. Silence hung in the air. No one knew what to say. Are there no scripted lines?" Sang-guk's mother asked, eyebrows raised. "It's a reality show," the director replied, amused. "He doesn't seem to know how to react," the assistant director noted, watching Sang-guk's blank stare. "Hold on a sec," the lead director mumbled, trying to read the situation. The group started whispering amongst themselves. "The camera's rolling. Someone say something. What are we supposed to say to a baby?" Even Sang-guk looked baffled. But then he smiled. He'd figured it out. These rookie idols were hopeless with babies, which meant he had to take the lead here. Looking around at the unfamiliar space, Sang-guk made a decision. His expression twisted dramatically, and he let out a full-volume cry. Panic erupted. "What do we do now? Let's calm him down," Taeyong shouted, springing into action. He scooped Sang-guk up in his arms, completely the wrong way. Jaehyun, ever the observer, winced. "Dude, that hold is totally off," he commented. Without hesitation, Jaehyun stepped in and picked Sang-guk up properly. Miraculously, the baby stopped crying and seemed completely at ease in his arms. The others blinked in disbelief. "How did you do that?" someone asked. Jaehyun grinned smugly. "Babies love handsome faces. It's science." That sparked immediate bickering. As Sang-guk suspected, each of these guys had their own unique flavor. Taeyong, the reliable leader, mature and responsible, practically a dad. The gentle flower boy, vain yet nurturing like a mother. Lucas, the laid-back athlete, your classic big brother type. Quiet but kind, the watchful protector. Honestly, they were the perfect mix for a pretend family. Sang-guk, being the true mastermind, started assigning roles in head, and then there was Michael, clueless, wild card energy. Sang-guk really wanted to cast him as the villain, but no, for the greater good of group harmony, and he'd make him the rival. With great dramatic flair, Sang-guk pointed his tiny finger straight at Michael. Jaehyun blinked. What's he trying to say? Maybe he needs a diaper change?" Taeyong guessed, hesitant. "Diaper? Me? I've never even touched one," Taeyong confessed, stepping back. Michael stepped forward confidently. "Don't worry. I got this. I raised 3 younger siblings back in LA. This is nothing." He approached like a seasoned pro. But Sang-guk's expression darkened. Something mischievous flickered in his eyes. Michael noticed. "Wait, why is he looking at me like that?" Before he could react, splosh! Sang-guk unleashed a golden fountain of baby wrath right into Michael's face. Michael staggered back, stunned. Meanwhile, Sang-guk looked utterly pleased with himself. That should feel refreshing, he thought smugly. And with that glorious moment, Michael took a cautious step backward from baby Sang-guk, probably rethinking every life choice that led to this day. Taeyong stepped forward, concerned. "Hey, Michael, you okay?" he asked, reaching out. Michael turned to him, and his face was a storm cloud ready to erupt. That's when it happened. "This little brat!" Michael exploded, glaring at Sang-guk with the fury of a man wronged by destiny. He actually looked like he might square up with a literal baby. "Whoa, whoa!" Taeyong quickly grabbed him, holding him back before things escalated into a full-on baby versus adult showdown. The entire room burst into laughter. The director nearly dropped his clipboard, wheezing. The assistant director doubled over. "This is gold," someone chuckled from the crew. "Absolute comedy gold." Even the boom mic operator was shaking from silent laughter. Sang-guk, watching the chaos unfold, felt pleased, deeply pleased. Another flawless victory, he thought with pride. This shoot? Certified success. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light through the windows, the lead director called out, "All right, everyone, take a 2-hour break. We'll resume with the evening shoot later." The group exhaled in unison, looking wrecked. Reality shows were no joke, no script, no retakes, just raw reactions and baby-powered chaos. Soyeon walked over to Song-guk with a bright smile. "You did amazing today," she said warmly. She handed him a banana, thinking he must be starving. In his past life, Song-guk wouldn't have spared a banana a second glance. But in this life, somehow, it tasted like heaven. Sweet, satisfying, divine even. He took a bite, savoring the flavor like he was in a dessert commercial. Behind them, Taeyong quietly approached Song-guk's father. He looked genuinely moved. "I just wanted to say, your son is fascinating," he said earnestly. He elaborated, his tone thoughtful. "Every time I'm near him, I find myself drawn in, like completely absorbed in what's happening. It doesn't feel like acting. We're just being ourselves, and yet the scenes come out perfectly. It's like magic." Song-guk's father chuckled. "Ah, it's probably just a coincidence." But Taeyong shook his head. "No, I don't think so. There's something about him. He's shining brighter than any of us expected." Nearby, Jaehyun was basking in the aftermath of the day's success, especially proud of being the flower boy who could also ace childcare. He looked like he was ready to print that on a resume. Taeyong added with a laugh, "It's almost like Song-guk already understands our roles and just plays along perfectly." Little did they know, that was exactly what Song-guk was doing. But while most were enjoying the break, one person was not in a good mood: Michael. Freshly out of the shower, his hair still damp, he fumed silently in a corner. He hadn't forgotten the warm gift Song-guk had left him earlier. He clenched his jaw. That little devil's gonna pay. Just then, the assistant director walked up to him, clearly annoyed. "Michael," he said bluntly, "you've got to stop pulling the overseas excuse card every time something doesn't go your way." He shoved a small baby meal pack into Michael's hands. "This is Song-guk's evening food. Warm it up and feed him." Michael snatched the packet with exaggerated politeness. "Oh, I'll prepare it. Nicely." His lips curled into an ominous grin. In his pocket, something sinister peeked out, a packet of chili sauce. Michael glanced down at it, eyes gleaming. "You want a spicy show? I'll give you one," he thought. This reality show was about to get real spicy. Michael had made up his mind. If this show was going to be spicy, then literally so. Still seething from the earlier golden shower of justice delivered by Seon-guk, he grinned wickedly and pulled out the tiny packet of hot sauce he'd smuggled in. "This time," he muttered, tearing it open, "it's my turn." With an evil smirk, he mixed the fiery red sauce right into Song-guk's baby food, stirring with the flair of a villain prepping his masterstroke. Meanwhile, the assistant director finished setting up the hidden cameras all over the room, carefully positioning them to catch every unscripted moment. Once everything was in place, both the director and assistant director quietly left the set. The group of young idols looked around awkwardly, fatigue setting in fast. The cameras were watching. The pressure was on, and they had zero clue what to do next. Lucas yawned. "Can we eat first? I'm starving." "Who's cooking?" someone replied. Cue awkward silence. Not a soul in the room could fry an egg, let alone whip up dinner. Then Taeyong remembered. "Wait, before anything, we've got to feed Song-guk." Just as he turned, Michael casually stepped in, cradling the bowl of tainted baby food with the innocent smile of a man with ulterior motives. Taeyong blinked. Michael? Helping? Something about that felt wrong. This was the same guy who got mad at a literal infant earlier. Now he was volunteering? Song-guk didn't buy it for a second. He squinted up at Michael, his eyes narrowing with seasoned suspicion. Something wasn't right. Babies usually weren't this skeptical, but Song-guk had lived another life, and his baby instincts were top tier. Michael leaned in, cooing, "Come on, this was made by mommy. You gotta eat it, lil guy." But instead, Song-guk snatched the spoon from Michael's hand and raised it toward him. Michael froze. "Wait, what? He's so kind and thoughtful," Taeyong smiled, watching the scene unfold. "He wants you to try it first." Michael swallowed hard. "Why aren't you accepting his love, Michael?" Taeyong asked, eyebrow raised. "You're hurting his feelings." "Yeah," Michael stammered, backing away. "I'm, allergic to feelings?" Taeyong sighed, dramatically. "Cold-hearted. Fine, I'll accept Song-guk's love." He leaned in and opened his mouth like a proud parent. One spoonful in, and Taeyong froze. His face twitched. His eyes widened. His soul left the building. Jaehyun noticed immediately. "Hey, what's wrong?" Taeyong gasped. "Hot! Hot!" Jaehyun grabbed the bowl, sniffed it, then tasted a drop. His expression turned ice cold. "Hot sauce," he muttered. "In the baby food." Silence. All eyes locked on Michael. Michael laughed nervously, hands raised in surrender. Okay, so I put in some hot sauce. Just a little joke, all right? It'll boost the ratings." But Jaehyun wasn't amused. His voice was low, sharp. "There's a line, Michael. Even for entertainment." He stepped forward, gripping Michael's collar. What if Song-guk had eaten it? What if something happened to him? Are you out of your mind? Then, from the side, Taeyong gently approached Song-guk. He crouched down and bowed slightly. I'm sorry, Song-guk. You didn't deserve what Michael did. The baby nodded solemnly, accepting the apology like a tiny emperor receiving tribute. Both Jaeyoon and Taeyun were livid. They pounced on Michael, shouting, shoving, and scolding without restraint. The set turned chaotic as the fight escalated. Meanwhile, Song-guk sat calmly, watching the scuffle like a seasoned director previewing a trailer. These guys, he thought, chuckling. They've got real potential. With a loud, mischievous grin, he declared silently to himself, from now on, I'll guide these fools properly. The next morning, Seong-guk's home. A wave of disbelief swept through the household. The first episode of Just Baby hit 20% in viewership. The landlord beamed as she shared the news. Isn't that amazing? So Young, Sang-guk's mom, looked stunned. 20%? Isn't that huge? It's not just huge, Seong-guk's father replied, eyes wide. It's historic. MVC's top shows barely scratch 15%, the landlady nodded proudly. The director called earlier. It's official. Just Baby is now part of MVC's regular programming. She turned to Sang-guk, her expression warm and admiring. Congratulations, little star. You've done it. Sang-guk, ever composed, offered a calm yet confident smile. Of course, he thought. When I'm the one in charge, this level of success is only natural. But he didn't let it stop there. Clenching his tiny fist with conviction, he declared internally, this isn't enough. Not yet. I want more. Fame, fortune, and ultimate celebrity status. He suddenly burst into laughter, lost in his ambition. The landlady stared at him, puzzled. Is he okay? A more serious note. Seong-guk's mother, So-young, hesitated before turning to the landlady. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. A few days ago, someone from Sinsung Entertainment came to our house. The moment she heard the name, the landlady's smile vanished. They congratulated me on the variety show's success, So-young continued nervously, and brought a fruit basket. One of their representatives said their CEO, Sinsung Jung, wants to meet us. Her voice trembled. They even asked us to visit the agency when we're free. The landlady went quiet for a moment before sighing. I was actually looking into Sinsung Entertainment after our last conversation, she confessed. It's true. They're big, very influential, but there are a lot of rumors surrounding them. Rumors? Song-guk's father asked, uneasy. Yes, she said. About shady contracts, about CEO Jung himself, even connections to gangsters. The word gangsters sent a chill through the room. So Young and her husband looked horrified. The landlady continued, cautiously, still, I think we should go, just to hear them out. If anything feels off, we walk away, no hesitation. At that moment, Seong-guk, no, the old soul behind his baby eyes, froze. Sinsung Jung, that name. A long-buried memory surged forth. His eyes widened. No way. It can't be him. The alarm bells in his head screamed louder than ever. Wait! Don't meet him! Seong-guk suddenly cried out. Well, cried as a baby, which to everyone sounded more like an urgent babble. But inside, his thoughts were crystal clear. Sinsung Jung. That man isn't someone you sign a contract with. That man is someone you never, ever get involved with. Inside Sinsung Entertainment headquarters. The room was sleek, dimly lit, and intimidating. CEO Sinsung Jung sat confidently at the head of the table, his sharp gaze piercing through the formal atmosphere. He gestured to the plush seats in front of him. Please, have a seat. So Young and the landlady exchanged nervous glances as they sat down. Their posture was stiff, uncertain. A strange pressure filled the room, making it difficult to breathe. Thank you for inviting us, CEO Young, the landlady began cautiously. But may I ask why you wanted to see us? With a thin smile, CEO Jung replied, Of course, I simply wanted to discuss a bright future for our Seong-guk. Sang-guk's eyes narrowed. Our Seong-guk? He thought, teeth clenched. What does this snake think he's claiming already? He tried to stay composed, but his inner voice boiled. You really think you know me? CEO Jung snapped his fingers, and an assistant stepped forward with a neatly prepared folder. We'd like to offer Sang-guk an exclusive contract, naturally with Korea's #1 agency, Sinsung Entertainment. He placed the folder on the table and slid it toward them. A 10-year commitment. 10 years? The landlady repeated in disbelief, flipping through the document. Yes, the CEO said smoothly. Top stars like Jang Dong-woon and Im Sun-mi also signed this exact type of agreement. We value Sang-guk's potential. We're even offering very favorable terms. As he continued his rehearsed pitch, Sang-guk's interest peaked. He gestured for the contract, curious about the trap he already suspected. And there it was. The landlady's expression changed instantly. Her eyes widened in shock. She looked up sharply. A 70-30 profit split? Of course. CEO Jung replied calmly. We receive 70%. We are investing in his future, after all. Investing? Sang-guk scoffed internally. No, you're draining. These terms are slavery, locking someone into a decade of exploitation. He clenched his jaw, exactly like before. In his past life, Shin Sung-jung had ties to the Samjeon group, specifically to his father, Vice Chairman John Jae-yong. That connection, forged through actress Im Son-mi, led to dirty deals, misused influence, and a flood of shady ad contracts. Shin Sung-jung showed blind loyalty to Song-guk's father, and eventually, poetic justice ended up behind bars for threatening and abusing his own celebrities. Back in the present, CEO Jung smiled thinly. I've been in this industry for over a decade. I've never seen a child actor like Song-guk. He's got that it factor. Then, his voice dropped, almost muttering. Child actors fade as they grow. You lock them in while they're hot, milk the ads, ride the fame, discard them when they cool off. No backing, no power, perfect targets. The words made Seong-guk's blood boil. He hasn't changed one bit. But just before he could say anything, the landlady closed the contract with a loud snap. We'll have to decline. Silence filled the room. CEO Jung raised an eyebrow. I beg your pardon? We appreciate the offer, she continued, calm but firm, but we're not interested in this type of deal. So Young looked at her in surprise, but beside her, Sung-guk smiled with pride. Good, he thought. She saw through it. I was right to trust her. Inside the meeting room, Shinsung Entertainment. The atmosphere turned dense as CEO Shin Sung-jung leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Why are you refusing the contract? He asked, voice calm but cold. The landlady didn't flinch. Because Song-guk's value will only rise in the future. A 10-year deal on these terms would be a mistake. The room fell silent. Then CEO Jung let out a low, mocking chuckle. You're quite confident. I understand. You find the child adorable. But let's be honest, you don't know much about this industry, do you? He waved a dismissive hand. The child actor market is small. They don't make much compared to adults. And if his face changes as he grows, his value will disappear. Song-guk's fists clenched tightly. His ears burned. But before the words could land deeper, So-young gently covered his ears. She didn't want him hearing such cruel, calculated words. But Song-guk had already heard enough. Look who's talking, he thought angrily. You'll only get uglier with age, like a toad. But I, Song-guk, will grow into greatness. I'm only getting started. His chest tightened with emotion, and despite his strength, tears welled up. He started crying. The landlady stood abruptly. You lack vision, CEO Jung. We're leaving. CEO Jung's eyes narrowed. Miss, you're not even his mother. Why are you interfering? Outsiders should stay out of family matters, right? That was the last straw. The CEO looked between the two women, visibly confused. The landlady turned to So-young. Let's go. I worked in advertising long enough to know this contract is a trap. But CEO Jung wasn't going to let them go easily. His smile twisted into something darker. You'll regret this, he muttered. Both women turned back, puzzled. Do you think you can disrespect me, Shin Sung-jung, and still work in this industry? He snapped, his voice rising with fury. The mask had finally come off. The landlady remained calm. So the thug finally shows his true face, she thought. Without another word, they grabbed Song-guk and left the room, ignoring the CEO's shouting as they walked out. Outside the Shinsung Entertainment building. Outside, emotions ran high. The landlady's fists were clenched. Making threats to a pregnant woman, he's not even human. She turned to So-young. Are you okay? So-young gave a small, shaky smile. I think Umi had it harder than me. No, the landlady replied firmly. Guys like him are everywhere in this business, but we're not going to bow to them. We don't need a company like that. She pointed across the street. Let's take the bus. But as they started walking, So-young called out, Miss Kim. The landlady turned. Would you really become Song-guk's manager? She froze, surprised. So-young looked between her and Seong-guk. The boy's face lit up with a rare smile. This isn't a bad idea, he thought. In business, you learn that talented people are everywhere, but trustworthy ones are rare. And Miss Kim, she's both. Still uncertain, the landlady replied, I'm not an expert in the entertainment industry. But before she could finish, Song-guk tugged at her sleeve and pointed a tiny finger up at her. Become my colleague, he said boldly. The tension broke into laughter. Even So-young chuckled through her tears. Umi, my husband and I, we really don't know this world. Please help us protect Song-guk's future. The landlady exhaled, her expression softening. A new sense of purpose bloomed in her heart. All right, she said, I'll do my best as Song-guk's manager. They all smiled brightly. Let's earn an incredible amount, she declared with a grin. You will pay me, right? Of course, Song-guk replied seriously. We'll give you everything. He was glowing, enlightened, and ready for the future. Back inside Shinsung Entertainment, CEO Shin Sung-jung was fuming, pacing across his office. A subordinate entered. Sir, we found out who she is. Her name is Kim Mi-young. She works at an advertising firm. Also, she's the landlady at the house where the John Song-guk family lives. A dark grin spread across the CEO's face. Kim Mi-young, is it? He turned slowly. If they won't come under me, I'll make sure they understand what it really means to survive in this industry. Let them feel the pressure. He snapped his fingers. Call the reporters. Back on set, the filming resumed. The cameras rolled again, and the set was filled with laughter as Song-guk and Michael battled over a bunch of bananas. Taehyung tried to intervene. Guys, cut it out. Michael, give it a rest. But Michael shrugged. I like bananas too, okay? Despite the fuss, everyone else just handed the bananas to Song-guk, enjoying the chaotic scene. Song-guk only ate faster, refusing to let Michael win. The director and assistant director laughed behind the monitor, amused. From the outside, it looked like harmless fun. But inside, the tension between the boys was real. Both were glaring, silently daring the other to go further. Stop it! Taeyang suddenly yelled, his voice echoing across the entire studio. Everyone fell silent. The director chuckled and clapped his hands. All right, let's break for lunch. Outside the set, lunch break. Just then, Song-guk's parents arrived. His mother, So-young, now visibly pregnant, walked carefully over to the waiting area. The director noticed and approached her kindly. It must be tough, coming to the set in your condition. So-young smiled. Not at all. Even though it's been months, watching the filming is still fun and exciting. The director nodded, glancing at her belly. Still, if it becomes too much, please don't hesitate to tell me. Thank you, director, she said warmly. When's the due date? He asked, genuinely concerned. Late December or early January, she replied. As they continued chatting, the director brought up something else. By the way, about Michael, the audience really enjoys the way he bickers with Seon-guk, like a real-life Tom and Jerry. He paused. Though honestly, I worry sometimes. Michael can be too much. Has it bothered you at all? So-young shook her head. No, director. I trust you. I actually find their quarrels pretty funny. Relieved, the director smiled. All right, I'll make sure to keep it balanced. Unbeknownst to them, the landlady, now officially Song-guk's manager, was listening nearby. Without a word, she quietly stepped away, thoughtful. Backstage, a brewing storm. The crew scattered for lunch, chatting and stretching. Song-guk, however, was slumped on a bench, sleepy from too many bananas. He rubbed his eyes, drowsy, until he felt a shadow loom over him. It was Michael. His grin was sharp, eyes narrowed. Hey, did you really hit me earlier, you ill-mannered brat? Seon-guk's drowsiness vanished instantly, replaced with anger. You've been crossing the line lately, he snapped. I've been watching you. Want to get taught a lesson? Michael flinched. This kid's crazy, he thought. Temper like dynamite. Trying to assert dominance, Michael grabbed Seon-guk's cheeks and twisted them hard. Seon-guk gasped, his cheeks burned red, eyes welling up, his voice trembled, and then he wailed. Loud, really loud. Michael panicked. No, don't cry. It was just a joke. But the sobbing only got worse, and standing right behind them was the landlady. She stepped forward calmly but firmly. Michael, she said, did you just pinch Song-guk's cheek? Michael froze. Wait, it's not what it looks like. He's just overreacting. But she wasn't buying it. I've been with this boy long enough to know he doesn't cry without reason. Michael looked down, ashamed. Song-guk peeked up through watery eyes, seeing his manager standing beside him like a shield. He sniffled and smiled slightly. She's really on my side, he thought. Tensions behind the scenes. The landlady had noticed it for a while now, Michael constantly laying his hands on Song-guk during shoots, poking, pinching, pulling. It had gone from playful to downright disturbing. Finally, she'd had enough. Michael, she said firmly, standing between him and Song-guk. I've asked you before. Don't touch him like that. Michael scoffed. Why are you acting like his mother? He's just some insignificant kid. The landlady didn't flinch. Insignificant? She stared him down. Then how come you filmed several commercials thanks to that insignificant child? That shut him up. Michael was speechless. Without another word, she gently picked up Song-guk, who still had tears in his eyes, and said in a cold tone, This is your final warning. Stop physically abusing a baby. She walked away, leaving Michael fuming alone, his face twisted with anger. This isn't what I came to Korea for, he thought bitterly. I wanted to be an artist, not some glorified babysitter. And ever since that stupid hot sauce incident, the other members had been giving him dirty looks. This whole program is trash. Is there a way to make it flop? Let it fail. I'll succeed without it. Just then, his phone rang. Annoyed, he snatched it up. What? But when he heard the voice on the other end, his eyes widened in shock. It was a call from Shinsung Entertainment Studio. A few days later, the production team had gathered again at the studio. Thanks, everyone, for coming to this production meeting, the director said with a bright smile. Taeyong, despite his packed schedule, was there. And so was Song-guk's family, accompanied by the ever-watchful landlady. Before diving into business, the director lifted several envelopes onto the table. Before we start, performance bonuses, he announced cheerfully. Gasps filled the room. He beamed. Our viewership just crossed 30% last week. That's a massive achievement. The higher-ups are thrilled, and they really adore Songguk. Everyone applauded in surprise. But Taeyong and Songguk were a little distracted, both curiously peeking into their envelopes with excited eyes. Of course, the director continued. There's not much time left until the final episode, so let's finish strong. He placed another stack of papers on the table. Now, on to our main topic, the Christmas special episode production. With Christmas around the corner, he began, we've received a request from the higher-ups. They want a 90-minute special, something warm, joyful, and full of that family magic. He glanced across the room, eyes resting fondly on little Songguk, who was wobbling forward, trying to balance on his tiny feet. Songguk, the director called playfully. You've been walking and even running these days, huh? Everyone chuckled as Songguk made a little hop, clumsily but full of energy. The director clapped his hands together. Perfect. We'll have Songguk and all the Just family members in Christmas costumes. Imagine it. Santa hats, a decorated set, a party, singing, dancing. It'll be the perfect feel-good episode to close the season. The director excitedly began laying out the rough plan for filming days, camera sequences, and costume fittings. But then, the door burst open. It was the assistant director, breathless. Director, he called out, a note of urgency in his voice. We have a problem. Everyone turned. He hurried over, tablet in hand. There's an article, just dropped a few minutes ago. The mood in the room shifted in an instant. The assistant director tapped the screen and held it up. A headline flashed across it. Child actor John Songguk exploited for labor. Parents accused of greed. Gasps rippled around the room. The room fell silent except for the sound of the news anchor's voice echoing from the television. Accusations of child exploitation directed at John Songguk's family have shocked the entertainment industry. The article claims the child has been overworked for profit. The screen flashed with Seongguk's smiling face from a recent commercial, now twisted by the headlines. So Young's hands trembled. Her vision blurred as tears welled up. What have we done? What if this ruins his future? The air was thick with anxiety until the director calmly spoke up. Don't panic, he said firmly. It's nothing more than tabloid noise. This kind of attack happens when a show becomes too popular. I've seen this before. The landlady added with quiet resolve, still, I'll find out who's behind this. This isn't a random scandal. It's calculated. And then, surprisingly, it was Seongguk who stood up. The room went still. He raised a small finger, pointing confidently toward the director. Director, he said, his voice clear and unexpectedly calm. His father, startled, reached out to stop him, worried he might be speaking out of turn. But Seongguk continued, gaze steady. Negative public opinion campaigns are power struggles, he declared. Whoever wrote this article has something to gain. If we find out what they're after, we can act faster than them. Director, this is your fight to lead. Everyone froze. Even the landlady blinked. The director's mouth parted in awe. You're right, he said slowly, nodding. Since this began, because of our show, it's our responsibility to respond. I'll contact the network PR team immediately. We'll release an official statement and monitor every article that follows. He turned to Songguk's family. For now, stay at home. Don't interact with the press. Avoid the filming site. It's safer. So-young bit her lip. Then, what about Songguk? The room fell quiet again until the landlady stepped forward. I'll stay with him, she said confidently. You focus on resting and keeping the baby safe. The director gave her a grateful nod. Manager Kim, you've been a godsend. Looking back at Songguk, the director smiled faintly. We'll get through this. It's just a storm. And storms always pass. Everyone exhaled, feeling that for the first time, they weren't alone. Whispers in the snow. Outside, snow gently fell over the glowing streets of Christmas Eve. People strolled arm in arm under twinkling lights, hot drinks in hand, laughter rising into the cold night air. Amidst this warmth, a single figure moved cautiously. So-young, bundled tightly in a sleek coat, sunglasses, shielding her weary eyes from the world. She pushed Songguk's stroller along the side path, her breath visible as puffs of steam. The festive lights didn't reach her heart, only anxiety gripped it. Just a short walk. I needed air, she told herself. This much is fine. But Songguk didn't agree. Inside the stroller, his face turned red with frustration. He kicked lightly, his little hands gripping the sides. He was angry. At his age, being restrained like a helpless baby felt insulting. I can walk. I've walked plenty on set. This is humiliating. His cries seemed to shout. So-young bent over, trying to calm him. Just a little longer, baby. I don't want people to recognize us. But the city didn't sleep. Behind her, voices echoed. Hey, did you watch Just Baby this week? She froze. Another voice chimed in. Of course. The Christmas special was adorable. Taeyong as Santa? Please, I almost fainted. And that baby snowman Songguk? I screamed. I want to eat him up. He's too cute, So Young blinked. Her lips trembled into a small smile. They like him. They really like him. She felt warmth, brief, delicate, like a snowflake melting in her palm. Then it shattered. Yeah, but did you hear about the scandal? That article. Ugh, right. Something about the parents using the kid for money. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? They're always there. It's weird. So Young's breath caught. As the voices behind them trailed off into the cold night, the last words clung in the air like frost. Come on. Does that make any sense? Sunguk's turning 3 next year. The streetlight turned green. The passersby disappeared into the night, leaving So Young rooted on the spot, her grip still tight on the stroller handle, her thoughts spiraling. She couldn't speak. Her face was pale under the streetlight, lips pressed together as tears welled. She didn't notice Sunguk looking up at her with wide eyes, but he felt her tension. He stopped fussing. Then came the sound of familiar footsteps. So Young? It was her husband, Sunguk's father. His eyes lit up when he saw them. You came? I told you not to come out. It's freezing. But as he reached out to her, the smile faded from his face. So Young's eyes were swollen with tears, and without a word, she collapsed into his arms, burying her face in his chest. So Young? He asked softly, concerned. What happened? She couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come. Only her trembling shoulders answered him. And in that moment, holding her and seeing the look in his son's innocent eyes, confused and quiet, he knew. This couldn't continue. Not like this. Back at the studio, storming through the studio doors, Sanguk's father approached the director without hesitation. His face was firm, voice clear but strained. We need to talk. This can't go on. My wife is breaking down. My son is being turned into gossip fodder, and we're being painted as monsters for just supporting our child. The room fell quiet. The lead director looked down, apologetic. We've tried to manage the press, truly, but the public attention around Sunguk is unprecedented. The more we try to silence them, the more they dig. I'm not here to hear excuses, Sunguk's father snapped. I'm here to protect my family. A heavy silence followed. Then the director raised his eyes, serious now. Then let's take a head-on approach. Sunguk's father blinked. What? The director nodded slowly. A live press conference with reporters. Will the live press conference clear the storm? Or will it pour fuel on the fire? Can Sunguk's family reclaim their peace, or is the spotlight too bright to ever escape? Stay tuned to find out whether love, truth, and resilience can outshine scandal. Because sometimes the most fragile bonds are also the strongest.